Hi, Mr. Kennedy or Dr. Kennedy.
How are you?
Good. My name's Christina Caro. I'm with the Mono County Democrats.
Great.
And you are, about 10, 15 minutes early. So I am actually just getting the presentation and stuff ready. So you'll just hold on.
Okay. Are you getting our slideshow?
Yeah.
Queued up? I've got a shorter version that I'm using.
Oh.
Well, let me ask you this. How much time do you want me to take delivering the presentation versus the Q&A part?
Well, my understanding is that there's kind of limits on what kind of questions they can ask you anyway.
They can ask questions about the presentation mainly. Nothing having to do with actual redistricting, redistricting of California. I mean, if there are kind of big picture questions and particularly about things that we've covered in our meetings, I don't have a problem answering kind of generic questions about, general issues that we've discussed in our meetings, because that's all public record anyway.
Have you done one of these presentations in San Bernardino County areas?
Sure. Yeah.
What have you found? Because I can tell you in the Eastern Sierra, there often aren't a lot of questions. But there's going to be East San Bernardino people joining as well. And right. So I'm not sure what they're like when they attend one of these.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess I would say there's been a little more engagement from folks in Riverside County, San Bernardino. I mean, I had a good session with the High Desert Chamber of Commerce up in Hesperia a couple of weeks ago.
And how much time did you spend on the presentation part?
I think that was one where they were asking me to keep it to like 30 minutes. So I've got a shorter version that I use when time is of the essence. And then, I mean, if time is not an issue, then I'm happy to go through the whole thing.
Yeah, because I was thinking about 30 minutes, probably 30 to 40 minutes. Probably 20 minutes will be. Let me just check real quick how many people have registered.
Okay.
One sec. Oh, okay. So we have let's see, we have about 48 people. Some of those are going to be our members. So probably about 40 people. Let's see. So do you want me to oh, 1 second. Would you like me to share? Do you have like a presentation that I can share the screen and you have your own presentation to go through?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we did as a commission is we developed the full long version of this. And then everybody is instructed to modify it as necessary. So like I say, mine is about 5 slides shorter. But as I said, I'm happy to do the whole thing also. And if you've got the whole thing ready, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Well, why don't I just go ahead and use the one that your staff forwarded to me
Okay.
already. Just gonna open up my participant thing. I think I'm just gonna have people in the waiting room right now. Let me try to pull that. Where did it freaking go? Oh, here it is. Okay, so this one is 3. And then do you want me to just, I guess I'm gonna be doing the slides. So this one's 24.
Right.
So, I mean, not all of these you're gonna spend a minute on. So what are the, because you could email me the shorter one if you want, and then I can pull that one up. Or I could.
Let's go with the longer one.
Okay.
I won't linger anywhere, and we'll treat people to the.
Well, we have about 48 people, and some of those are going to be our members. So say we have like 35 people. Our members don't tend to ask a lot of questions. When we've had speakers in the past, like one person will ask a question, or me, and I'm probably not going to ask any questions this time, because I'm having to manage everything. So that's what I'm wondering more. It looks like the majority of people may not be from the Mono County area. I didn't recognize a lot of the names. This is a community where you recognize the names, so
Right.
So that's why I'm just going like, well, maybe all those East San Bernardino people are going to have lots of questions for you. Okay, so I've got that pulled up. Let me get, this is our chair, Joyce Kaufman. I'm going to let her in. And Chris. Hey, Joyce.
Hey, Christina, how are you?
I'm good. Dr. Kennedy is here with us.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us tonight. We so appreciate it.
You are certainly welcome.
And Chris Bubser, thank you for arranging this.
Hi, Dr. Kennedy. Thank you so much for representing our area. We're so grateful.
Sure. Well, I had to tell Commissioner Anderson because she was chiding me a little bit for not alerting her that I was encroaching on her territory. And I said, well, I figure it's because they're in the same congressional district as I am.
I noticed that. I was like, oh, he's not even our person.
You know,
well, we've said that, any commissioner is available anywhere in the state. If anyone feels like they want to deal with any particular commissioner, they're more than welcome to request that particular commissioner. So that's how we operate.
So you want me to start letting people in?
Yeah, also, Christina, you're recording, right?
yeah, it's recording.
Okay, and Dr. Kennedy, you know we're recording. Is that okay?
Oh, you have to for us.
Okay,
we
good.
we have to post it on our website.
Excellent.
Afterwards.
Yeah,
excellent.
The way I set it up was to automatically record.
Excellent.
We got here early, so we're gonna have 15 minutes of jibber jabber. So, okay, let's start letting folks.
Yep.
The PDF before we, just to make sure, this screen share.
Who's doing the screen share?
I am.
Okay, good.
I didn't hear what Chris said.
Oh, could we test the screen share and just make sure? Since I know it's sorry, it's a PDF, but I figure, Commissioner Kennedy, that you don't want to give us a PowerPoint. You might change it. Oh, look at that.
Got it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we have some guests here, Angelica Velasquez, Lisa Bach, and is it Doug Smith? Yeah. Can you see their names, Joyce, at the top?
I do. Yeah, I've got it.
Deborah Dunaway, she's from, she was on the Marge Doyle for Congress campaign from East San Bernardino. I think we've got a lot of San Bernardino people joining.
Good. That's great. And I heard from at least one person from Alpine County who's planning to join us.
Okay.
All right, represent.
So
We're adopting Alpine County. 'Cause
we are.
We feel their pain. Us, we're the forgotten counties.
We totally do. And they were so happy to have us, believe me.
Okay, somebody has a radio or TV on, so if you could mute their mic, or I might mute everybody. We had 48 people registered at last check.
Oh, good. That's great. Well, we still have a little bit of time, so.
Yeah, we did a little shaking of trees tonight. So.
Sorry, I'm here at my elderly parents' house, and they're yelling down the hall.
Dogs are going to bark, you know.
Can't you mute them, Christina?
Well, I temporarily muted myself. Are you gonna have dinner?
Like, I'm good. No matter how many times I warn my family, I will be on a call. Please don't scream through the house.
Oh, well, I'll be in session with a client, and there's like my mom wandering around in the background, like, oh God, sorry.
Well, yeah, I was teaching a
violation,
I was teaching a class on Zoom, and what I loved is, you'd see one of the students' cats walking across the desk, and dogs barking in the background, including my own, I have to, add. So it was all very human.
So Tiffany from Inyo County Dems is here.
Oh, good.
Derek Marshall, who's running for Congress. Cheryl McKinley. I'm not sure who that is.
Excellent.
Welcome, new people. Okay, so I think they're going to be trickling in, Joyce.
Okay.
So maybe we can start in about a minute.
Yeah, we'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll start, because we want to make sure there's also time for questions. And we're very mindful of the fact that we scheduled an hour for this. So we want to keep it to that.
And then, Chris, we are going to put some links in the chat at some point, right?
Yes, I'll do that closer to the end.
Great.
It's just the documents, Commissioner Kennedy, that are on the website. So the FAQs, they seemed really helpful. So we thought we'd.
Yeah.
People.
Lynn Bolton is here.
Oh, Lynn Bolton's been busy trying to stop a gold mine in
Yes.
Cody Hoskins, Kate Harvey.
Kate is from Alpine County.
Yay! Welcome, Kate.
Hey, so great. Thank you for having us here.
Kate, we're so glad you could join us.
Thank you. This is very exciting.
And I think Tiffany's here from.
Yeah, Tiffany's here.
Okay, so like I said, we had 48. We've got about 14 here now. 7. Why don't you go ahead and get us launched, Joyce?
Okay, I will do that. Welcome everybody to our forum on redistricting. I'm Joyce Kaufman. I'm chair of the Mono County Democratic Central Committee, and we are the ones who are hosting this. And our deepest thanks to Chris Bubser for helping to make this all happen. As we know, this is an important year. We're going to go through redistricting. It looks like California is probably going to lose one seat. So how lines are drawn and what happens is going to be extremely important. And the more we know about the process, the more we know how we can participate and really be educated about what the process is involved. I know people are going to be joining us, and feel free to, just jump in as we get started. But I now want to turn this over to Chris Bubser to introduce our speaker and help frame what the event tonight is all about. So Chris, it's up to you.
Thanks so much, Joyce and Christina. And, the Mono County Dems are your hosts this evening, but we are lucky in California that our redistricting is truly nonpartisan. And as such, I'm really excited to welcome Commissioner Ray Kennedy. We asked Commissioner Kennedy to come speak to us because although we've invited people from all over California, most of the people attending this evening come from Congressional District 8, where I ran last cycle. So it's a lot of people from Inyo, Mono, and San Bernardino counties, although we've welcomed people from all over California, as I said. The reason that we are hosting this, and we hope that this is the beginning of a first conversation, I'd like to just very quickly give a shout out to my friend Doug Smith, who I'll be introducing at the end of the program, because he's going to help us. He's a actually expert historian on redistricting. And so as we go forward and try to figure out how as communities we're going to give our public input, Doug has agreed to do our next forum. So I'll talk more about that at the end. But in the meantime, Commissioner Kennedy, who lives in our very own Morongo Valley, has agreed to be here with us this evening. So as I mentioned, J. Ray Kennedy is from San Bernardino County, and he's worked in the field of international electoral assistance since 1990. He's led large and small teams in the design and implementation of electoral assistance projects. He observes elections, plans and manages election activities, mentors election observer groups, trains election staff and political party agents. He has drafted election laws and regulations and served on an election commission. A lot of this work he did through the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, IFES, which is a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. So he initially managed IFES projects in the Americas, and he later led IFES's work in collecting, organizing, and disseminating information on elections and citizen participation throughout the world. And I actually, Commissioner Kennedy, looked at your bio when they first announced who the commissioners were, because I was curious. And it's amazing all of the places that you have lived and worked. So thank you for that service. One of the things he did was launch the ACE project, which is an online encyclopedia on election administration. So since Commissioner Kennedy received his PhD in Latin American Studies from Johns Hopkins SAIS, he's worked primarily as a senior electoral expert in the United Nations system. He's also collaborated with the Carter Center's Democracy Program. In parallel, he has been working for more than a decade to promote awareness and implementation of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, advising local groups in several countries, as well as the Voting Accessibility Advisory Committee in Riverside County, California. He is registered with the Democratic Party, and he will explain how the commission is established, but there are even number of Democrats and Republicans, and I believe no party preference registered, I don't want to say voters, but members of the commission. The last thing I'll say is that it's really important that we follow the rules. And so tonight is an information only session. Commissioner Kennedy is not allowed to take public comment outside of an actual commission meeting. We can ask questions and he'll just let us know if, you know, what's appropriate and what's not. But the bottom line is this is not our chance to make our voices heard about what we think our communities of interest are, but instead for us to learn, because this process is lengthy and we are at just starting step one. And without further ado, I will introduce Commissioner Kennedy, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much, Chris. It is a real pleasure to be with you all this evening. The commission decided several months ago that we really wanted to invest a lot of our time and effort into this educational phase. The 2010 commission had a much shorter timeline for its work than we have. One of the lessons learned in 2010 was that the commission needed to get off to an earlier start. The 2010 commission was not formed until the very end of December 2010 and only had their first meeting as a full commission in January of 2011. We were lucky enough to be formed by mid-August of last year and had our first meeting as a full commission before the end of August of last year. So you can see that we got a head start over the 2010 commission. And of course, the delays in the census results mean that we have a lot more time on the back end as well. The 2010 commission had to have their maps in by the constitutional deadline of 15 August. We're not even anticipating having the data that we need until at least the 15th of August. So I'll cover that later, but the upshot of it is that this has given us the time to go out around the state, make contact with as many people and groups as possible throughout the state and really get our messages across. So in this redistricting basics presentation, we're going to be going over who and what the commission is, what it is that we do, and how you can get involved in the process. Christina, if you want to start the slides and go to slide 2, the next one. So this is what Chris was mentioning. In accordance with Government Code Section 8253, we cannot receive communications about redistricting matters from anyone outside of a public hearing. So we can't take input on communities of interest. We can't take input on district boundaries at this point. This is an educational presentation. I'm happy to answer questions about the presentation. If there are generic questions about the redistricting process, reapportionment, those sorts of things, and particularly if they are issues that we have already covered in open commission meetings, then I might be able to respond to a question. But in general, please limit your questions to the presentation itself, and we'll talk about how you can provide input about communities of interest and districts in the course of the presentation. Next. So what is redistricting? This is not something that's on the front of everyone's mind. It's something that only happens every 10 years after the census. We're trying to make it as easy and as interesting as we can for people. So basically, redistricting is drawing the new boundaries that determine which Californians are represented by each electoral district. So the cycle is the census happens, we get the census data, we draw new lines, those lines determine how people are represented until the next commission is in place and receives the census results, and the cycle starts over again. Next. Okay, so why do we have to redraw district maps? I can tell you that we've had any number of people asking us, why do you have to redraw maps? Why can't you just leave my district alone? I like it the way it is. And we understand that, but there are many, many factors that go into drawing districts. And those factors change over the course of 10 years. Communities change as far as their priorities, their interests, their goals, the makeup of a community. Communities grow and shrink because people are born, they die, they move in, they move out. And so areas where there were once roughly the same number of people become unequal. And those are all things that we take into account and reasons why we have to draw new districts every 10 years. Next. How districts are configured really can make a difference between empowering and maximizing voters' voices or minimizing and muting those voices. These days, in most other states, politicians redraw the districts, and they often end up drawing safe districts for themselves to allow them to stay into office. By fully participating in and monitoring this redistricting process, we hope that more communities throughout California have the opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. That was why the commission was established in the first place. Independent commissions like ours were created to remove the politics from the process and focus on the people and what they feel their communities are and how they want their communities to be represented. Speaking up about your community is critical to help keep your community whole to the extent possible. And that ensures that your voice is heard by your elected leaders when making decisions about things such as quality and funding of kids' education or determining tax rates. So your input is valuable in shaping the new boundaries that will come out at the end of this process. Next. So there are a number of ways that redistricting affects you. The Voters First Act, which established the commission back in 2008, was historic in California. It transferred the power to draw new districts from the legislature to the people. Having the opportunity to elect representatives that champion your issues is important in a state like California. In Northern California, issues can be environmental, economic issues. Central California might focus more on water and agricultural issues. Southern California might champion issues. Issues related to transportation, housing, and employment. So where the district lines has an impact on how your voice comes through in that policy dialogue. Funding priorities tied to the issue of electing representatives that champion your issues is also the idea of representatives that are going to echo your funding priorities. When the time comes to build a budget, you want a representative fighting to ensure that your community gets the financial resources it deserves for various services such as education, water, and fire protection. In relation to community boundaries, the redistricting process is all about drawing lines and determining which communities get grouped into districts. Your input in this process is essential to help us understand where your community starts and stops. Redistricting in California is one of the few civic activities in which any Californian can provide input that ultimately impacts the laws and regulations, tax structure, and how funding is distributed in our state. Next, we're going to talk about the road to fair representation. So the road to fair representation has a number of steps to it. I mentioned the census. In accordance with the Constitution, there is a census every 10 years, counting the entire population in the US. The next step is reapportionment, and that just happened on the 26th of April. The Census Bureau had a press conference and released the reapportionment numbers. So the reapportionment numbers are the population of the entire United States and the population of the 50 states. That enables them to figure out how US House of Representatives seats are reallocated among the states. So as you know, California, beginning with the maps that we put in place, California will have 52 seats rather than 53 as a result of that reapportionment process. Doesn't mean that California lost population. It means that California grew more slowly and ended up losing a seat to states that grew faster. Now we wait for the redistricting data. Census Bureau has announced, first of all, that they would release the redistricting data no later than September 30th. They later said that they would, they hope to be able to release the census data in an older format by mid to late August. So we still have a lot of uncertainty about what we're going to get when from the census. So as I say, we're trying to make the best use of the time in the meantime to tell people about redistricting and to get them engaged. I mentioned historically legislators have drawn maps that allowed them to stay in office. What we are trying to do is to listen to communities and find out how communities define themselves and how they want to be grouped into districts for fair representation. Next, why independent redistricting matters? Well, as I mentioned, California is one of the few states in the country that has an independent redistricting commission. And you can see here, this is taken from Encyclopedia Britannica. It's just a simple illustration of how you could take 50 people or 50,000 people or 5 million people that are 60% orange and 40% purple and draw 5 districts. So the second and third illustrations show 2 different ways so that the 5 districts come out at the same proportion as the people that you have in the population. Over on the right, under gerrymandering, first example shows a way to draw 5 districts with the same population, but get a very different outcome. You end up with orange getting all 5 seats and purple getting none. And then the last illustration is a way where the lines could be drawn to give orange only 2 of the seats rather than 3. And the 3 go to purple, even though they're only 40% of the population. Next. So this is the heart of the matter. These 6 line drawing criteria in this order are established or were established in the state constitution by the Voters First Act back in 2008. So these are the rules that we have to go by. And not only do we have to go by them, we have to go by them in this order when we're drawing district maps. And we can talk a little bit about how the order of these might be reflected in the maps in the end. So number 1 criterion is equal population. Districts must be of nearly equal population to comply with the US Constitution and various Supreme Court cases that have been brought over the years. Second of all is the Voting Rights Act. Districts must comply with the Voting Rights Act to ensure that minorities have a fair opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. Number 3 is fairly straightforward, contiguity. means that districts have to be drawn so that all parts of the district are connected to each other. The only exception is islands offshore that will be connected to nearby landmass, but we can't have, in general, we can't have districts that have bits and pieces that aren't connected to the rest of the district. We know that there are cities in California that have pockets that are not contiguous with the rest of the city. So that it gets interesting when we start applying these criteria. Next is communities of interest. And this is kind of the heart of the matter. This is one of the main reasons that the commission exists. Criteria number 4 says that we should minimize the division of cities, counties, neighborhoods, and communities of interest to the extent possible. So there are a couple of things to keep in mind about criterion 4. First of all, we have criteria 1, 2, and 3 ahead of it when we start drawing lines. But also within criterion 4, there is no hierarchy established among counties, cities, neighborhoods, and communities of interest. So that means if the commission has met criteria 1 through 3, and we're looking at criterion 4, and we feel after getting public input that it's more important to keep a particular community of interest together than it is to keep a county together or to keep a city together, criterion 4 allows us to do that. So this, as I say, is kind of the heart of the matter. Criterion 5, geographically compact. Again, that's kind of like criterion 3. It's fairly straightforward. Districts should be geographically compact in the sense that if we're looking to add population to a map that we are in the process of building, we should look for population as close by as we can get it, and not be reaching great distances to get the population that we need. And finally, criterion 6, all the way down here at the end, is nesting. Nesting is, where practical, each state Senate district should consist of 2 complete and adjacent state assembly districts, because there are twice as many assembly districts as there are state Senate districts. And each Board of Equalization district should consist of 10 complete and adjacent state Senate districts, since there are 10 times as many state Senate districts as there are Board of Equalization districts. 2 further considerations that were also established in the state constitution through the Voters First Act: the place of residence of any incumbent or candidate may not be considered in the creation of a map, and districts may not be drawn for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against any incumbent, any political candidate, or any political party. So, like I say, these criteria, and particularly communities of interest, these are really the heart of the matter, and part of the reason that the commission exists. Next, this is also something that we really want people to understand, particularly with the California Voting Rights Act and a lot of the court cases or settlements that have been going on. More and more local jurisdictions are setting up their own redistricting processes for their internal boundaries, their internal district boundaries. Everybody needs to keep in mind, the California Citizens Redistricting Commission is responsible for congressional seats, that's U.S. House of Representatives, for state Senate, state Assembly, and state Board of Equalization. That in and of itself, we're going to be drawing 176 districts, which is going to be a lot of work. Counties A lot of counties have their own redistricting processes. We're not involved. Cities in California, a lot of cities have their own redistricting process. We're not involved in this. School districts, water districts, community college districts.
Best we can. So next up, we got AB 520, diversifying teachers. Anybody heard anything about that you're interested in? Diversifying teachers, AB 520.
Is that a state of Texas? Is that California?
Somebody, if somebody has their mic on, if you can mute, or is Joy, can you?
I think it's Noel.
Anybody
There she
who's
is.
not unmuted? Sorry about that, Jay. I think we're okay now.
Okay, so we are not involved with any of those other redistricting processes. We will attempt to coordinate with them so that if someone contacts us, for example, but they're really trying to provide input on their county board of supervisors redistricting process, we will refer them to the correct body. If somebody contacts their school board redistricting effort wanting to provide input to U.S. House of Representatives redistricting, we hope that the school board redistricting body will put them in touch with us. So that's where we are. There are any number of redistricting efforts. We are only responsible for 4 of those efforts, but we will seek to coordinate and collaborate with the others. Next. As I mentioned, prior to 2010, at the 2000 redistricting and before, the legislature drew the lines, or if they didn't do it in time, or if they were hit with a lawsuit over how they did it, the courts ended up doing it if the legislature failed to carry it out properly. Proposition 11 in 2008, the Voters First Act, that established the commission and gave it the responsibility for drawing lines for state senate, state assembly, and state board of equalization. And it was only 2 years later in 2010 that Prop 20 added the responsibility for drawing congressional districts to the mandate of the commission. So the 2010 commission did its job, defended its maps against a number of lawsuits. At that point, they were lucky enough to win a grant from a center at Harvard University that enabled them to travel around the country, telling people about the experience of California with citizen redistricting. They actually had their last meeting in June of last year, just before the new 2020 commission took over. We'll talk about the selection process in just a second. Other states with independent commissions, California was not the first. Arizona was the first. They had a citizens redistricting commission in place for the 2000 redistricting cycle, then California. And since then, Colorado, Idaho, Michigan, Montana, Washington, and there are a number of other efforts underway. New Mexico, Virginia recently put in place a hybrid commission with 8 legislators and 8 citizens. So the whole way we think of and do redistricting seems to be in the process of changing in the country. Now, we mentioned the selection process. So in 2019, the state auditor's office, which is responsible for the selection process, opened its initial application period that generated over 20,000 applicants statewide. Those were reviewed for basic eligibility requirements, and some number of those were invited to submit supplemental applications. The supplemental applications included essay questions and asked for a lot more background information. There were over 2,000 supplemental applications that were submitted later in 2019. The applicant review panel set up by the California State Auditor then progressively narrowed that pool of over 2,000 down to 120 that they wanted to interview. Now, those 120 by law had to be 40 Democrats, 40 Republicans, and 40 others. Others could be green, libertarian, peace and freedom, or no party preference. So anything other than Democrat, the largest party in the state by registration, or Republican, the second largest party in the state by registration. After those interviews, which took place in March and April of last year, the applicant review panel narrowed the pool to 60, 20 Democrats, 20 Republicans, 20 others to send to the legislature. Now, the Voters First Act and the California State Constitution, as a result, give the legislative leaders, the Democratic and Republican leaders in both the state Senate and the state assembly, the right to strike up to 2 individuals from each pool. So by the time you do the math, 2 strikes per pool for each of 4 leaders, that's a possible 24 strikes in total, which took the pool of 60 down to a pool of 36, 12 Democrats, 12 Republicans, 12 others. For some reason, at that point, 1 Democrat dropped out. So we had 11 Democrats in the random draw for the first 3 Democratic seats on the commission. I was lucky enough to be one of those 3. There were 3 Republicans drawn and 2 others. The first 8 of us then met. We reviewed the application materials of everyone left in the 3 pools in order to agree on a slate of 6, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, 2 others, to bring the commission to its full strength of 14. So next. Here we are, 14 members. We are diverse. The purpose of the selection process being set up the way it was to ensure that the commission broadly reflects the diversity of the state. I believe that's very close to the literal language in the legislation or regulations regarding the selection process. So there are 7 from Northern California, there are 7 from Southern California, 8 women, 6 men. We range in the ages from our 30s to our 60s. We have NGO leaders, engineers, pastors, law enforcement officers, political scientists, public servants, and 1 lawyer. So that's the 14 of us. Our meetings are held online currently because of the pandemic. We believe that has given people broader access to our meetings. We hope that folks will join us for our meetings. It's very simple. Just go to our website, click on meetings, and if we are in session, there is a link to the live stream. You can also see the calendar of upcoming meetings, the agendas, all of the handouts, all of that is there for you. Next. So, duties. We obviously have the duty to deliver maps by the deadline. We also decided that we wanted to make a significant effort to reach out to people and groups throughout the state. So we are engaging in these California Redistricting Basics presentations. The next phase will be that we organize a series of community input forums, if you will, focusing on areas around the state. And then once we have the redistricting data later in the year, we will be sitting down with our map drawers in public sessions, taking community input as we draw the lines. Now, when we talk about drawing the lines, this is just an example from the Sacramento area to make sure that people understand that when we draw maps, we're drawing different types of maps. I mentioned we have 176 districts in total to draw. Because there are different numbers of seats for each of these bodies, then each of the types of districts has a different target population. So for example, US House of Representatives seat, the target is going to be something, I think I did the math with the new numbers. It's something around 750,000 people in a congressional district, closer to 1 million people in a state Senate district, close to 500,000 people in a state assembly district, and close to 10 million people in each of the Board of Equalization districts. Next.
So Ray, I just want to do
Yes.
a time check. It's about 7:37, so maybe in about 10 more minutes to wrap up the presentation, so we have time for Q&A.
Yep. We've divided the state into 11 outreach zones. These are broadly the same as the zones that were established for census outreach. We did split the metropolitan Sacramento region out from the zone to the north of it, so that the folks up in the northeastern part of the state would have greater participation in our outreach and not feel like they were just the stepchildren of Sacramento. I am the lead for Zone I, which is San Bernardino and Riverside. Next. Communities of interest, and this goes back to criterion 4. So we can get the information we need about county boundaries, city boundaries, very easily. What we need from the people of California is, what are your communities of interest? We define a community of interest as a concentrated population, not one that's scattered throughout the state, but one that is concentrated, that shares common social and/or economic interests that should be included within a single district for purposes of effective and fair representation. Keep in mind that a community of interest is not the same as a district. We are looking at communities of interest as key building blocks of districts. So communities of interest can be cultural, they can be economic, they can be who has access to the same media or transportation facilities. And you can see from that people can actually belong to multiple communities of interest. So we're happy to hear from one person that they belong to, any number of communities of interest. We're also aware that a person's community of interest may vary depending on whether they're talking about US House of Representatives or state Senate or state assembly. So we want to hear from people. Next. And we hope that this is fairly straightforward. It's best if folks create maps and just tell us about their communities. They can do it orally during one of our meetings or community forums. They can provide a written description. We know that communities often organize around redistricting because they feel that the issues of concern to them have not been adequately addressed by their elected representatives. Next. So describing your community, drawing a map, and sending it off to us. We are particularly lucky this time because the statewide database at UC Berkeley has developed for us an online communities of interest mapping tool. That is drawmycacommunity.org. That is up and running. It's up and running in at least a dozen languages. And so we are making an effort to make this as widely available and as widely known as possible. Next. So our communities of interest mapping tool, again, drawmycacommunity.org. We will also be developing a paper-based form to collect the same information. It will have prepaid postage. We will distribute that as widely as possible. If people come to our website, there's an easy access to the Draw My CA Community tool. Folks can email us at votersfirstact@crc.ca.gov. They can call us at 916-323-0323, or they can write us through U.S. Postal Service, California Citizens Redistricting Commission, 721 Capitol Mall, Suite 260, Sacramento 95814. So those are the languages that the online communities of interest tool is available in: English, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Korean, Armenian, Farsi, Arabic, Russian, Japanese, Punjabi, and Khmer. They're also working on additional versions for us in Thai and Hmong. Next, language access, as you can tell, is very important to us. We are working on ensuring that at least our basic materials, like our fact sheet, our flyer, our FAQs, this presentation, are all translated into those languages. We are happy to arrange for interpretation of public comment at our business meetings with 5 days advance notice. If someone sends us written input, they can send it in any format, in any language, and we will endeavor to get it translated into English for the commissioners. We will be translating any non-English language inputs from the online tool. And if someone needs an interpreter to provide input during a meeting, just let us know and we will work to get the interpretation in place. Next. Very important. The California State Constitution, if you go looking, it will tell you that there is an August 15th deadline for the commission to submit its maps. But because the census was late, the legislature and a number of groups around the state filed suit in the California State Supreme Court last year to compel the Secretary of State to accept maps from us after that August 15th deadline in the state constitution. So the state Supreme Court ruled on July 17th of last year that assuming that the census results are received by July 31st, we should have until December 15th of this year to submit our maps. And that if the census results are received after July 31st, and at this point, that is what is in all likelihood going to happen, then the commission's deadline is adjusted accordingly. So for every day or every week that the census redistricting results are delayed in reaching the state, we will get that exact amount of time added on to the December 15th deadline. Next. Our general timeline continues to be adjusted as we get more information. We're now doing these educational presentations. We'll start the public input meetings in June. We have a tentative calendar already set. We expect that the census data, redistricting data in an old format might reach the state in late August. We expect that we, the commission, will have the data that we need sometime likely to be in the month of October, at which point we will start these line drawing sessions, develop our draft maps for public release. Then those maps are frozen for 2 weeks for the public to review them and develop their feedback to us. And then we take that feedback into account in developing our final maps. Next. So just a quick reminder, we can take questions about the presentation. We cannot take any input into communities of interest or districts at this point. If you want to provide input on your communities of interest, you can go through our website or go directly to drawbycacommunity.org, and you can provide that tonight if you wish, but through the online tool, not here. And very importantly, we are wanting to reach populations throughout the state. If any of you belongs to another group that might be interested in an educational session, just contact us. We'll be happy to schedule that for you. There's an online speaker request form that you can fill out on our website if you'd like, and also just follow our website and our social media presence for updated information. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to respond to questions that I can respond to.
And I think just for housekeeping, because I've been following the chat, Christina, because I know you've been doing the presentation. I don't see it. I see one question from Sarah Lee, but after that, there's a few that seem more like comments. So if you want to ask a question, if you could just write your name in the chat, we'll create a stack and we'll call on people. So Sarah Lee, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question about training, go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering, will there be overlays of previous COIs or whatnot? I mean, for the average citizen, how impactful can we be? I mean, it seems to me, I've sat on all these like sessions on how to do a community of interest, but it's like, I mean, come on, I can't do something from scratch. Who has the power to have those, maps and data? Is it obvious, or will your training let us know where those overlay maps might be?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by overlay maps. I mean, the way I see it, even before anybody is thinking of districts, we want to hear about communities of interest. Just forget about districts. Tell us about your community or communities of interest. What are they? Where are they? What defines them? And we will have a data management team working with us to sort through all of this input, whether it comes through the online communities of interest tool or email or public participation at one of our events. All of this will be, go into the same pot and will reach the commissioners for us to use when we eventually get around to drawing districts. And remember, a community of interest is not the same as a district. It is a building block of a district. So the more information you can give us about your community of interest, the better.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so next we have Derek Marshall. Derek, go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris, for organizing, and Christina and the Mono Democrats, and Ray, thanks for the fantastic presentation. I had a quick question. So is there any historical data that you're looking at? And is there any sense that you might be able to dive into some of that historical data in doing some type of analysis before the deadline? Or are we really talking about Q3, Q4 before we even will see any type of lines?
Yeah, we at this point, we don't anticipate putting anything out until that time. There will be, as part of meeting criterion 2, compliance with the Voters' Rights Act, there will have to be some analysis, VRA analysis, and VRA analysis does look at historical voting patterns. It has to, in order for us to comply with the Voting Rights Act.
Okay, great. So next we have Lynn Bolton. Go ahead, Lynn.
Hi, my question is, it seemed like when you had the 6 rules, it seemed like somewhere around 4 or 5, does it allow for a county's boundaries to be changed, or the county?
No, The
Boundary.
county's boundaries are not changed, but we do not have to respect those when drawing districts for representation. So, you know, if there's a good enough reason for us to combine parts of one county with parts of another county, we don't have to respect those administrative boundaries for the purposes of drawing districts for representation. Same with cities. You know, a lot of people say, keep my city whole. Well, you know, yes, we are encouraged to minimize the division of counties, cities, neighborhoods, and communities of interest to the extent possible, but we have to meet criteria 1, 2, and 3 before we can even take that into account. And again, within counties, cities, neighborhoods, and communities of interest, there's no established order of precedence. And so if we get enough community of interest input to convince us that it's important because of what we're hearing from people on the ground, that it's important to split a city in order to keep a community of interest together, you know, then that might be something that we end up doing. That's something that we're able to do under the rules as they are expressed in the state constitution.
Do you need a clear geographic boundary, like a certain road or a mountain range or a river to be clearly defining the break?
To define a community of interest, we do ask people to tell us, and you know, this can be through drawing a map using the online tool. It's a very simple, or at least a relatively simple mapping process if you go onto the online tool. But we also understand that there are people who are not going to be comfortable using that tool. And if you just want to tell us in writing or even verbally on the phone or in person at a public input session, if you want to tell us what the boundaries are of your community of interest or your neighborhood, we will have somebody draw the map for you and get it to us. So we want to make this as easy as possible, as accessible as possible for as many people as possible throughout the state of California.
Chris, we probably have time for one more question because we want to make sure there's time to wrap up.
Okay, can we do 2? Because I have one and I don't, and Donald Brown got in under the wire. So I'll make mine quick if I can. So in terms of criterion number 3, so areas have to be contiguous. What defines contiguous? And I'll give you an example. The cities of Yucaipa and East Highland are currently in California's 8th congressional district, but there's barely a road to get to those cities from the rest of the district, unless you drive through another congressional district for quite a bit of time. Could you talk about how that gets executed in the real world? Because we have mountain ranges and, you know, some of those same things Linda.
Yeah. What we have been briefed is that this depends on census geography. So the Bureau of the Census has its geography, which includes states, counties, but then goes down to census tracts, census block groups, and census blocks. And as long as a census block adjoins another census block, then it's contiguous.
Okay, thank you. And I want to get to Donald Brown. So go ahead, Donald. Donald, you'll need to unmute yourself.
I'll make this quick as well. But first, Commissioner Kennedy, thank you so much for your bountiful remarks. Wonderful presentation. And let me just go right to my 2 questions. One, I think that you may have already commented on this, but I was lost on the call for a while. but I must ask again so that I am crystal clear. Question number one, what should the primary takeaway of your presentation be for Black and other people of color? That's question one. And two, how ugly is the matter of voting rights going to get locally and nationally going forward?
Okay, so the second one is not within the scope of my presentation, not really the responsibility of the commission to opine on, so I will unfortunately have to leave that one aside.
Okay.
In response to your first question, what should be the primary takeaway for people of color? To me, the primary takeaway is please take every opportunity to get involved in this process and tell us about your communities of interest and how you want to be represented. We want people from throughout the state to feel like they are part of this process. There will be opportunities. Take advantage of them.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Chris, we have one more hand up. Patricia, can you do this really quickly?
Yes. I'm originally from Silicon Valley all my life. We moved into Merced County, Ventimilla. And what we discovered is that the county has, in 2010, again in 2020, does not want to form committees for redistricting. And so we as an organization and another coalition, we were shocked to find out that we were still at-large elections at city, school district, water district. So the data was that there was a major undercount. Even while read in the census, we still saw that undercount still going on. So where is our participation in this process if the county refuses to have a committee? So do we work with our state representatives to go at the state level? Because it's they have not liked the change of district elections now since 2014, heading all the cities, school districts, and also working with MALDEF and other organizations to assist with that process in the Voting Rights Act.
Okay, so again, we are responsible for districting for U.S. House of Representatives seats, state Senate seats, state Assembly seats, and State Board of Equalization seats. We are not responsible for anything else. Those 176 districts that we have to draw in a very short period of time are going to keep us very busy as it is. So anything about redistricting within the county, that's not our bailiwick. We won't have time, and we don't have any responsibility for it.
Okay, so the good thing is the state, we are definitely involved in our state level. So we just wasn't sure, I wasn't sure of the process, and we work closely with our state representatives and congressional representatives as well.
Right.
I think we're getting close to 8 o'clock. I have 7:59. Chris, do you want to say any final words, and then I'll wrap up and thank Commissioner Kennedy on behalf of everyone?
Great, thank you. So, as we mentioned, this was the first opportunity for us to learn the process. Now it is time to get to work and make our voices heard. So we as Mono County Dems, for the larger coalition that we hope to be forming, will be inviting you to a future meeting. And as I mentioned, we're gathering experts to come and help us think about how we can best make our voices heard. So Doug Smith, who is the chair of the Department of Humanities at the Colburn School and a voting rights historical expert, he's actually been an expert witness in federal district court about the Virginia 2013 voter ID law, for example. He's just going to come and help educate us. We'll be inviting you, so please make sure you've given your information to Joyce. If you have ideas for how you want to work together, what we're trying to do is make sure we get the voice we need in our rural and, you know, mountain, desert, Eastern Sierra communities and Payahunadu. So thank you for caring and for joining us. Commissioner Kennedy, thanks for all your work. This is a big job, and I will leave it to Joyce.
I want to echo Chris's thanks to everyone. This is the first time we've tried anything like this. Clearly, it's something that we're planning to continue. Please make sure we have your name and contact information, and we'll add you to the mailing list so that you can be informed of upcoming meetings. I want to thank Chris Bupser for really helping to make this happen. And I especially want to thank Commissioner Kennedy for really giving us an important overview of what we have in store for us. And I know the burden is now going to be on us to make sure we know how to move forward. So thanks to everybody for giving up your time tonight. And thank you again, Commissioner Kennedy. And to all of you, just stay tuned because there's going to be more coming. So thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.